Welcome to Mojo, Motivation, and Mental Health, where we have conversations that change lives. I'm Mike Orlowski. Now, before we start, I want you to hear this. If you're struggling right now with depression, anxiety, thoughts of ending your life, please reach out to 988. Call or text. It's the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. If it's an emergency, call 911. You're not alone, and you matter. Today's conversation is with someone who knows what it's like to be in a dark place. My guest is Andy Grant, a transformational coach, host of the Real Men Feel podcast, which ranked number 9 in the top 25 men's podcasts and has won awards for most inspiring podcast and best self-help podcast. But before any of that success, Andy tried to end his life multiple times. 3-2-1 darkness is how Andy describes it. He grew up in the 80s, much like I did, when masculinity meant being tough, silent, emotionally bulletproof. But Andy was sensitive, intuitive, emotional, and he spent years trying to hide it until it almost killed him. And around age 20, something changed. He had what he calls a dark night of the soul moment, and he chose to make a new path. That path led him from wanting to jump off buildings to end his life to bungee jumping in Africa to celebrate it. Today, Andy is an energy healer, high performance coach, and podcast host helping men reconnect with their truth, reclaim their purpose, and stop letting fear run their lives. Andy, thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure. Great to be here.
I appreciate it. I guess let's start, Andy, with the 3-2-1 darkness part of the conversation where you wrote, that's what it felt like when you tried to end your life, not just once, but multiple times. Can you explain what that's like?
Yeah, and the 3-2-1 darkness is kind of like what I wanted. I didn't grow up with, I didn't have any sort of religious notations. I didn't like myself, really. That was the core of it. So I didn't like myself. I didn't like life. I just wanted everything to stop. I thought, and this began at a really young age. I can remember being like 8 years old and having, just having ideas that I'll die by my own hand. I had 2 generations of death by suicide in my family. My grandfather and great-grandmother both died by gunshot. So there's a long time that I thought I have these thoughts because I'm supposed to act on them, and I kept them to myself. I thought I was so broken, so flawed, that I was hopeless, helpless. My parents were both teachers. When they saw that I was in trouble and acting out and shutting down, they tried to get me help, and I just went through the motions. I gave counselors and psychologists something, I had this weird dream, help me figure it out. And, oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's now I feel better, thanks. And it was just all an act, all fake. I did very well in school. So most people, couldn't believe that, the kid at the top of the class was somehow troubled by anything. And so people were glad to take my excuse and just let me go. But one thing my dad often said was that high school are the best years of your life. So I thought, well, I was in elementary school, already being bullied, already feeling alone and isolated and broken. Like, why would anyone live past that then? So again, like 5th and 6th grade, I'm deciding I'm not going to live past 18.
Mm-hmm.
But with that worldview, the desire to end, starts way before 18. So I tried to end my life at 12, 13, 15, 17, 19. And
Wow. Yeah.
I count the attempts that landed me in mental hospitals. All the times I tried to harm myself, but didn't go through with it, or didn't harm myself enough that anybody noticed I needed help. I don't even count those.
Okay.
Until when I was 20, I met a psychiatrist who said that anytime you have the intention of harming yourself, that's a suicide attempt. So by his definition, honestly, I've had hundreds of attempts.
Yeah, I haven't heard that before.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, it'd be like 1 billion served kind of a message. Nobody wants to use that number.
Right.
But that brings out like how common the thought is. It's when you make a plan, it's when you start taking action that it's really dangerous. But just because you wish you were dead or you think you would be better off, right? It's just, even suicide, I find every idea that any human has, it's our best idea at the time. So unless we share it with someone, we can't get the witness to help realize, yeah, that there are better solutions.
Yeah, maybe
So
that's not the one.
yes, no maybe about it. It really isn't. I've
Right.
met some people that made an attempt and then they really like, oh, thank God I didn't die. And they have a zest for life. That's how they find it. And I was not that way. I
Mm,
woke up in emergency rooms, furious, fighting help. Looking back now, I believed I wanted to die versus I wanted to die,
okay.
right? Because it was just a belief and it was my worldview. Life sucks, then you die.
Well, yeah, there was a
I'm
bumper
glad.
sticker for that.
Yeah, right. I'm glad that's wrong. I had that as a
Yeah.
pin on in my car. That was on my dashboard. So I saw and embraced that worldview every single day.
Wow. Yeah.
So age 20, I've made an attempt on my life using a means that already had not worked. And that's when I really had to realize, all right, I'm obviously not good at dying. I'm not good at living. What am I supposed to do? I was at a loss. I was in the fetal position on my mom's bed after giving up on an attempt, just sobbing. And again, it's
Hmm.
I've since people heard to call it the dark night of the soul. I'm begging, I'm pleading, I'm desperate, I'm giving up. I don't know what to do. And I'm used to the critic voice, the you suck, just die. I was used to
Hmm.
that voice.
Sure.
For the first time, I had this presence, voice, some experience of something outside of me saying, if you share your story, it'll all be worth it.
Okay.
And that was the first time I had the glimmer of the possibility of the hope that maybe I'm supposed to be here.
Hmm.
So that started, for the first time, I started consciously willing to heal. I didn't hold back. I uncovered that I had been molested at age 5. And that's what
Mm,
really, made me feel the world's not safe and I can't trust men. And it took me a lot of years to not just uncover that, but to heal it, right? And to realize, I'm not just this meat suit. I'm not just brain chemistry that's run amok. We're all far more than that. So I began to grow my spiritual self as well.
mhm.
So many men are taught to focus on their physical health and well-being, and that's it.
Right.
But we are spiritual, we are emotional, we are mental, right? True health, true masculinity must embrace all of those aspects of ourselves for us to have any
I
chance of
agree.
enjoying our lives.
I agree. And in the 80s, you know, when I grew up in the 80s, I was 6 in 1980 and shake it off. Get up, keep moving, rub some dirt on it. I mean, that was the mindset, right? And it's not our parents' fault. It's the generational thing. That's how it was. And I would say that's one of the things you talk about quite often is masculinity versus your nature, right?
Yeah, we all grew up with this distorted sense of masculinity. The answer isn't always go to the gym.
No,
It
right?
just isn't. But I often ask guys like, you know, if they're aware, like, who taught you what it means to be a man? And then, was that person a miserable bastard? If so, then why
Yeah,
would you follow that? You know,
right,
to me, the
right.
definition of what it means to be a man that matters is each of ours. That we are so comfortable that whatever I do, whatever you do, Mike, is what a man does. There's no questioning. There's no doubt, right? Men host podcasts. Men get together and talk. Men shave their heads. Like, whatever you do, they're
Yeah,
like, hey, that's what
soon.
men do.
Yeah, very soon. So obviously, you made this big shift at age 20. Did you do that on your own? Were you working with still psychologists and counselors at that point?
It was a mix. So, how I first interpreted the share your story was don't keep it to myself. So,
Hmm.
went willingly to a hospital. And I still remember like what I felt like such an adult when I went to get help and I hadn't made an attempt first. I was like, oh, I can go straight to help. All of my attempts, I felt better after. So I had this
Yeah.
distorted pattern connect that everything's going bad, can't take it anymore. If I make an attempt, that like releases the pressure, and then I can go on an upswing again.
It buys you a little time.
Yeah, but again, it's really that vent. But I'm like, wait, I can just skip to help. I don't need to
Hmm.
try to check out. So that was a big step for me, and also realizing and being willing to be wrong. Like I was so sure that my life wasn't worth living. I was really sure that my friends and family would be better off with me gone. I thought, oh shit, they'll be upset for a few days. I get that. But then it's just like I moved. Like, who cares? Right. But almost the disregard I had for my existence, I assumed everyone else had it at that same level. But we're all connected. We're all supported. The common phrase of misery loves company. Well, joy loves company too. Happiness loves company,
Yes.
right? All energy is contagious. So
I was
the
just going to
more
say that.
miserable I chose to be, the more miserable people around me. And, suicide pacts were a big thing when I was a kid and stuff. And, so there would be open talk about that. But only in mental hospitals did I find people openly talking about how badly they felt, which just made it
Hmm.
seem even more this rare thing, right?
Yes.
But we are
Well,
more than our brain chemistry.
absolutely. And I've read a book, there's No Room Service in the Psych Ward. It kind of goes into the experience in the mental hospital. It's actually quite funny. And I'm reading another one right now. There's Coffee in the Fridge about a similar experience of attempting suicide and going into the mental hospital and the experience of it. And it's enlightening because, like you said, we don't talk about it on the outside, but on the inside, they learn to talk about it. And I've talked to someone who's an alcoholic, and it's the same situation, right? Conversations, they change their life and they get them back on track because they're talking with people that have, peers that have been down that road.
Yeah. Like it was, and that was one thing that was so weird to me. Like I could thrive in a mental hospital. I
Hmm.
made friends. Like, it's like, why can't I do this in real life? And so again, it made me think
Yeah.
I'm so screwed up. I only fit in here. Right. And I remember counselors would tell me, like, I'm like, oh, I'll come back. And like, I was like the one out of 100 former patients that actually came back and visited people that were still there. Counselors told me, no, everyone says that, but no one does it. Like, well,
Right.
I did. But again, I think that's when I realized, and I didn't realize it then, but that's when it started how important service is. Like being
Hmm.
willing to listen and just stay and hear someone else share helped them. And I found it helped me too.
I agree. And I'm getting into more of that and having empathy and not sympathy. I know you went from wanting to jump off buildings to end your life and then to bungee jumping in Africa to celebrate your life, which I find pretty fascinating. It's a heck of a transformation. So what was that journey like between those 2 versions? And I mean, a little bit about the Africa journey, right? Because what led you to do that?
Yeah. So not just one, I've stood on top of buildings and I've gone there. And again, because I didn't jump, I don't even count it as a suicide attempt, but I stood at the edge
Mhm.
of a building wanting to jump, wishing I could, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
My body was my body like everything was so resistant to this idea. I'm like, all
Yeah.
right, I can acknowledge this is not what I'm supposed to do right now.
Yeah.
Then what I marveled at was so my in 2023, my wife and I both got laid off. We had to sell our home and downsize. The downsizing we thought would happen one day, like it's happening now. Anyway, so
Yeah.
everything worked out fine. But with those proceeds, I'm like, let's go do a trip of a lifetime. So we went to Africa, visited 4 countries, including Victoria
Wow.
Falls, world's tallest waterfall, amazing spot. And they had bungee jumping there. And bungee jumping is something that's been on my list forever. I've never had the opportunity, never was at a place that did it. So I'm like, we're
Okay.
going there. We're going on this trip. And mostly because they have this there. And
Uh,
I remember standing there at the edge, all strapped in, but I'm like, my body is like ready. I'm like, this is so different. Like, I'm in both situations,
yeah.
I'm going to jump off into nothing. And here, like everything about me knows it's for the thrill, it's to celebrate life. It was just so amazing a thing. And yeah, I loved it. Don't need to do it again.
Yeah, I've never done it.
It's a car wreck without a car. The falling is great. The rebounding, you're like a fish on a hook, slowly being reeled back in. Like it's all like, yeah, I had a concussion. I was at a headache for like 3 days.
That's a great description because I hadn't thought about it as they're bouncing back and forth, but yeah,
Yeah,
that's kinda like
right.
a
You
fish
just
on a
see the
hook. I
glory
like
stuff. You
that.
just see the slow motion plunge. You don't realize
Yeah.
how long you're there.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that, and I've never done it. My wife is a big heck no. She doesn't wanna do it, and so I'm like, "Yeah, I don't need to do it, but someday I think it would be fun to do."
Yeah, and it is. It's a like, and I asked like, does anyone do this again? And then I met some like a 25-year-old guy that had done it, and I thought maybe it's just my age. And I'm like, so would you do it again? He's like, no. He like once is enough. All right, great. So it doesn't
Yeah,
matter. Yeah, I don't.
good to
I don't.
know.
Not many professional bungee jumpers in the world.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know. The journey from then to now, what has continued to help you along the way? Is it continued therapy? Obviously, I'm sure the podcast helps too, talking to others.
Yeah. So all my experiences with mental hospitals did not benefit me. Senior year in high school, I had a psychotic reaction to overmedication. I had full
Mm,
blown tactile hallucinations. I felt and
wow.
saw rats and spiders crawling all over me. Like sometimes people on lithium, they have like slight body tremors. I
Hmm.
had full body paralysis. There was
Oh
one
my
weekend I
man.
couldn't walk and I'm hallucinating. The doctors told my parents that a friend must have brought me street drugs. They thought someone had given me acid. As an adult,
Yeah,
I got my records and it all says toxic reaction to medication. They owned it in writing, but didn't when they
yeah.
spoke to us. So, yeah, I have
Convenient.
not
Yeah.
had benefit from pharmaceuticals, which is what eventually got me into the world of energy work. And the things I do on a daily basis, the things I do with clients, they're tools I learned to truly save my life. There was I had, in my 30s, I was just another period of feeling suicidal. I would go years, and then it would come back, and because it would come back, I had, like, emotional tunnel vision, and I would think that the good times were the lie. Here's the truth is back. Everything does suck. Now here's
Yeah.
reality again. But I
Yeah.
had someone read my energy from across the country, and they said, "No, Andy, the suicidal stuff, it's not even you. It's not your energy." And I was like, "Great. What the hell does that mean? Like, what do I do with
Yeah.
that?"
Right.
So delving in to the world of energy and into meditation and to clearing and to other, that we all have our own personal space and we can be like a sponge and absorb energy. And I realized I was an empathic kid, but didn't know what that meant.
Hmm.
I remember the first day of school, third grade, on the school bus, sitting next to my best friend, going to the school I've already been going to, and I start sobbing. In my brain, nothing's sad. What is going on? I think I'm crazy. Then I realized that because I was so unconsciously open, sadness or fear around me got expressed through me by other kids that was so locked down they weren't feeling it. And I didn't tell anyone that. I didn't realize that till like 35 years old and finally made sense of
Right.
like, oh, but so I had all these, energetic and kind of woo-woo experiences as a kid that I thought were just evidence that I was freaking nuts. But
So,
now I embrace the nuts.
well, that's good. Yeah, you have to, I think. And, it's not a bad thing because it's something to talk about and it gets people's attention. Now, on the energy work side, I know I'm sure you probably were skeptical too at first. And a lot of people probably are. What would you say to someone who's thinking, I don't know if I believe that, or please help me understand that?
Yeah. First of all, you don't need to believe it. Energy work is much better experienced than explained. So I invite people
Hmm.
if you've heard if you're curious enough to try something, trust your experience, not the prejudgment, not anyone else.
Yeah.
One of the books I've written is called Still Here: How to Succeed in Life After Failing at Suicide. And it's everything I wish I knew when I was 17. And it talks about all the various steps that I did. Gratitude journaling, positive affirmations, mirror work, all things I made fun of, thought were ridiculous, got recommended to me for years, and I said no, and they work.
I have a gratitude journal right here.
I'm surrounded. I have been doing a daily gratitude journal since 2008. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have steamer trunks full of them. I don't know why I keep them for years,
Wow.
but
That would be me. I would keep them. I just started that, but I keep, yeah, yeah, that'll be me.
yeah. So the in the
And so what does that look like? Yeah. Tell me a little more about energy healing and what that's like.
so most people have heard of Reiki at this point. Have you heard of Reiki?
I have heard of it.
Yeah. Even yoga, like
Mhm.
that's energy. It's aligning, right?
Okay.
Even chiropractic, that was considered a really
Yeah.
fringe, didn't it's nonsense just a couple decades ago, probably.
Right.
Now there's a chiropractor on every street corner. So
Everywhere.
energy work just acknowledges that we are more than physical. That's all. And I and anyone can tap in to source, to God, to universe, whatever you want to call it. But just acknowledges that there's something more to us. And this moreness can help fill us up, help clear out things that aren't us, old thoughts, old patterns. It really is. And science is catching up with spirituality and proving it. Like the quantum field, where everything is a,
Mhm.
a particle and a wave, and light is amazing, right? We can pull that in.
Okay.
So all of
Cool.
our potential is light until we take action on our thoughts, our inspired actions become behaviors, and we make it real. Manifestation is taking inspired thought and taking action on it. And manifestation is not like, I own a Ferrari, I own a Ferrari, I own a Ferrari until one shows up.
Yeah. Doesn't
That is
work.
not how things work.
Yeah. I've tried. A lot of us did. Well, what was it? I can't remember who said this statement, but what man can achieve or man can believe he can achieve, right?
Right. Thoughts, feelings, actions. It's all the same recipe taught for millennia. Right.
Yeah.
But I find that so many men, we resist help, especially when it's simple, because our ego says we're complicated. Like, I'm such a mess. I'm hopeless. I'm helpless. You can't fix me. Nobody can. And there's this odd, not helpful sense of defiance to all that. So again, when I was willing to be wrong, let all that go. Like, I'm thrilled to be wrong. Without willing to be wrong, without being vulnerable, none of us can learn something new. None of us can grow. None of us can have a new experience. In all my work with energy, each of us, each of our souls loves new experiences. So the more new things we do, the more new things we try, that is literally the fuel that keeps the universe itself expanding. So, yeah, it's our job to try new things. It's our job to explore, to be adventurous. And it doesn't just mean conquer new lands, it means be adventurous
Right.
inward, right?
Right. And that's when I was depressed. It was gone. Like I had no adventure, no willing to try new things, right? And I think that's pretty common when you're depressed because you're just withdrawn. But now that I'm past that, it's like, yeah, let's go do this. Let's go over there. And it opens up a whole new world.
Yeah. If again, this is something I've been tracking this for like a year on the Real Men Feel show. Like, why do we have to hit rock bottom? We can
Hmm.
see it coming, but no, we get it like, and we have to
Yes.
hit and go splat and then go, all right, maybe I need help.
Hopefully not a real splat, obviously. Yes. But
But it can be.
I get it. I hit bottom. Yes.
But even myself, I'll see it coming. I feel the slope, and I have this bizarre. Even I think like 3 years ago now, I felt it coming. I said, I'm just going to go with it. I'm not going to resist it. Let's see how bad. And I realized I wanted another big, amazing spiritual moment that proved I was meant to be here.
Okay.
That's what I was after. And so I was apathetic for months. I did nothing, literally nothing. Didn't leave the house, just watch TV. I'm like, well, this is what happy Americans do. I'm just going to do this. I didn't get happy. I got sadder and sadder, more depressed, more withdrawn. I went a whole year without doing a new episode of Real Men Feel, and I felt horrible.
Yeah.
That finally ended when I got this faintest message when I'm like, all right, I got to do something. I can't take this anymore. And I meditated for the first time in like 8 months.
Hmm.
And I got, isn't being here enough? Why do you need a big song and dance? Isn't you still being here enough? And
Yes.
I like, point taken. And and that ended it. I started taking action. I started doing all the things that make me feel good, the gratitude journaling, meditation, energy work, being of service. Because that's one thing that didn't get talked about when I was a kid.
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
How men want to provide and protect. I think a part of that that's missing as we talk about is being of service. And doing all that makes us feel better,
It
right?
does.
It feeds our masculinity. And when
It
we
does.
don't be
Yeah.
of service, then we can come off as, controlling and dominating, all these distortions. But I believe at our core, happy, healthy men want to be of service. So healthy
I
masculinity,
agree.
the world needs more of that, not less.
Absolutely. Well, tell me about your podcast, Real Men Feel. Won awards for most inspiring, best self-help podcast. It's you're 10 years in now. What made you decide to start the show and explain a little bit more about your mission and how you determine what to talk about and where you go?
So 2010, I began working as an energy coach because I'd learned enough about it. So I was in a year-long coaching program, and I didn't know that's what it was. I took it
No.
for like self-help and healing. And then the people
Yeah.
going, you're really good. You're really intuitive. You can spot things and help people. What, are you going to launch your practice? I was like, practice what? What do you mean?
Just
So like,
help
all right,
getting
guys.
I'm just getting help.
So for years, most of my clientele had been women because they didn't need convincing. They were willing to try new things. They were braver in the world of energy medicine than men were. But all the women thought because they saw me as very masculine, tough, rugged, don't need help kind of guy. I don't know what they thought, but they all assumed I had this
Mhm.
army of men that I was also helping and leading. So for years, I felt being called. I'm supposed to do something for men. I need to do something for men. and I received a healing called a life activation. And what
Hmm.
that does is bring more light into your physical body. It lightens up your spiritual DNA into your physical DNA. So your talents, your gifts all become stronger. What you're meant to do becomes more obvious. Synchronicities really align to help you see why you're here and stuff. 2 weeks later, Real Men Feel was born. So I went from supposed to do something, oh, it's this. Like it brought me
Yeah.
clarity. And someone had asked me to give a talk about masculinity. I was like, sure. Then I'm like, the hell am I going to say? But
Right.
out of that came this phrase, real men feel, that resonated with me. They're all the, real men don't eat quiche, real men don't wear pink, all this stuff. And I thought, what if from now on, some future state, you see a grown man crying and you go, wow, look at that brave man. Look at that tough guy. Wow. Right. Because I find I've experienced this. The most invisible thing in our society is an adult male in tears in public.
Right.
That's a woman or a
Very rare.
child. Everyone stops. What can we do? How are you? Are you lost? Can we help you? Did you fall? Like, what's up? You're a man. People pretend they don't see you.
Yep. Just keep on moving. Won't touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah. So Real Men
Interesting.
Feel began just an offering service to men. It began with me and a buddy of mine, Apio Hunter. He was a gay Mormon in Utah. I'm a
Hmm.
straight married man in Massachusetts. I said, let's have a conversation. We'll cover a lot of ground between us. And as a suicidal person, I don't have the best ability to look forward. So
Hmm.
my goal was I'm going to do at least 3 episodes before I quit. That was the most optimistic view I could
Yeah.
take.
Not very many. Right.
But it let me made me I was committing to do more than one. So by the second, I think it began like bi-weekly. By the second episode, we decided this is a blast. Let's do it every week. By the third episode, people
Good.
were saying, "Hey, can I come on?" I'm like, "Oh, I guess we interview people now." And it just slowly grew from that. It was really the most topics are my goal is to entertain or educate myself. And if other people come along for the ride, great. 'Cause if ever come to this point where if I don't like making it, I'm not gonna make it. Simple as
Right.
that.
Agree.
Yeah. So I was shocked we got to 100 episodes. Opio kind of fell away just for it's tougher to schedule both of us than one of us and the guest. So it was just so anyway, I've been going it solo since episode 100. I recorded episode 400 yesterday. Um,
Nice.
and you'll find this if you haven't already found it, you will find it, Mike. I can't tell anymore how many of my friends began as podcast guests versus they were friends first. I know so
Wow.
many people from the world of podcasting that is yeah, it's just amazing the depth. When I went that year of not doing shows, I would get emails from guys around the world saying, "I know your story, and I notice you're not doing anything. Are you okay?"
Yeah.
And that stop. I couldn't keep lying that nobody noticed. I couldn't keep lying that nobody
Right.
cared. I couldn't keep
That's a
denying
big
the
deal.
impact. Yeah, it was a big deal, and I'm forever grateful to those people that reached out.
Absolutely. And I agree. The people that I've met just from preparing for the podcast, and I'm only 5 episodes. I've recorded five. Actually, I think you're the sixth. And the people that I've met are some of the best people that I've ever met, some of the kindest people. They've been through it and they're just they care. They want to help others. And I feel like I'm going to be in the same boat as you where, I'm going to have a lot of friends from it because we're all aligned on the same wavelength, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. People ask me often, like, well, don't you find that people are less open and not willing to talk to each other? I'm like, no, it must be the
No.
circle I'm in because I don't see that. I see the
Yeah.
exact opposite.
Yeah, I have no problem. Everybody that I've talked to is like, "Yeah, I'd love to, yeah, love to talk about this topic." And there's a couple that have said, "No, no, I'm not ready yet." And I'm like, "Okay, you got to, you can't tell it until you're ready. But
Yeah.
when you're ready, you just let me know."
Yeah. And some of my proudest moments as a podcast host and as an interviewer have been helping that guy tell his story for the first time.
Hmm.
I like those episodes way more than, some 12 times New York Times bestseller has a new book and he wants to come on the show. Like, fine. I don't like being a pit stop on somebody's tour. I like being
Yeah.
a place where someone can really just share their truth.
Well, that's raw emotion, right? When that happens, it's real. It's relatable, especially to the folks that we tend to speak to. So, it's a more impactful conversation, I'm sure, in that case. Now, talk a little bit about your work, with executives and high performers and coaching and energy healing that you do. What does it look like? Who comes to you and why? And talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. I'm not sure why, but the most specific type of client, a lot of lawyers.
Hmm.
But
Stressful business.
typically, yeah, it's some that they fall into the success trap. They've checked all the boxes. I've done everything I'm supposed to. I got the career. I got the money. I got the respect. Done all these things, and I feel empty still. So I help guys clarify their values, their goals, their desires, get on their mission, not the mission of pleasing everybody else, be it family or society or just they're not even sure who. But it could be what some too many Schwarzenegger movies told them to be, as opposed to what
Yes.
do I really want.
Right.
So we clear other people's thoughts and energies, and clear neural pathways, and bring in new light, bring in new energy, and it's a lot of identity focus,
Hmm.
a lot of there can be a lot of childhood trauma
Hmm.
raising and clearing, and just realizing here's why you do it, and now we can take care of that so you can do what you choose to, not what you're automatically, not what you're just patterned to doing. We're all here for a reason, and if you're living and doing and performing some other reason, you'll have that emptiness. So
Yeah.
it's emotional
Right.
clarity, identity clarity, and learning tools to help you stay that way. Right. Find your best self and keep fueling that aspect of you as you go forward. So I've
I
seen
love that.
guys overcoming divorces, guys saving marriages, guys saving companies. And again, the more there's a strength in a leader who can be vulnerable, not just
Hmm.
demanding, unauthoritative. Like everything has its time and place. But if you're only willing to have, a quarter of your emotional range available to you, you can't do everything that's needed.
Right. Yeah. I talk about it about a lot online when it comes to leadership, right? And, leading with authenticity, leading with character, enabling your teams to do their jobs and having empathy for your teams. It's this historical dynamic of leadership is tough and they're closed off and they don't really engage with their teams. It's like turn them loose, build the culture that people want to be around, and it would be like a rocket ship at your company.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, so many leaders and business books talk about, we learn more from our failures than our successes. But how many leaders actually embrace anything that's seen as a failure?
Yeah. No, I agree.
And to recognize that just because something didn't work doesn't mean it's a failure either. Right? Like Edison said, I found, 1,000 solutions that don't work, but I still keep going, right?
Right. I've found, and I think you talked about it, reframing self-talk, reframing the things that you say to yourself really makes a big difference. Because for me, back in the day, it was, I hate who I am. I'm ugly. I don't like what I'm doing. I don't belong here. Versus now, it's like, you can choose to be happy. You are great. You're going to do great things. You are extraordinary. It's going to be okay. There's a different approach, and it really does make a difference. Has that been something that's really helped you, and how do you address that same with somebody that's looking, and working on the energy side?
Yeah, certainly. Some of the first things I did was mirror work. Just hold
Mhm.
my own gaze in a mirror and say, Andy, I love you.
Mhm.
First time trying to do that, I could not look at myself. I couldn't say I loved you. Um,
I know that.
yeah.
I understand. Yeah.
But now I'm like, yeah, how you doing? Woo, yeah. I love seeing my reflection now. I'm like a same person, but just taught to hide from anyone's glare. Not I actually dropped out of college to avoid a mandatory public speaking class. And now
I
I'm
considered it.
now
I know
I'm
the
me and
feeling.
myself sharing everything. Like again, I have found I can't be too authentic. I can't overshare. That doesn't mean that's the solution for everybody, right? Yeah. But yeah, the first book I wrote was all about positive affirmations because I was in a positive psychology class. The professor said, "Well, one thing I can tell you is affirmations don't work." I was like, "Holy crap! Affirmations are
What?
like one of the simplest things to help me turn my life around."
What was
But
he thinking?
yeah, they didn't work for him. And like affirmations, I find they're meant to bring resistance up. That's the one that tells you, "Oh, here's what you got to work on." If you're
Yes.
doing positive affirmations of the mirror and they're all easy to say and it's just a delight, you got to find some tougher ones. You got to challenge yourself.
Yes. I agree.
But yeah, it all begins just see if you can hold your own gaze in the mirror for 20 seconds. And if you can,
Yes.
go longer and start saying good things. If you can't, you've got work to do.
Yeah, the things that you say to yourself can truly impact your life, and it took me nearly, I don't know, 40. 5 years. It was about 45 years to figure that out. So, and the hope is that someone listening isn't quite there, but even if you're past 45 years, it's not too late, you know?
No, it's never
There's a
too late.
there's a lot of greatness on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing like, people that say, "Oh, affirmations don't work, positivity, that's nonsense." Most of us are using negative affirmations all day long. So that
All
so
day.
we're making up lies about how bad things are, how rough things are, how the future looks doomed. So if we're making up stories, let's make up better stories and see if that
Right.
changes our outlook. That's how I frame that to someone that's really in denial of it all.
Prove me wrong. You know what I mean? Like, show me it doesn't work. Let's try this for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and tell me it didn't make a difference. Because I was the skeptic. I was like, there's no way this is going to work. For years, I used to try it like for a day. And I'm like, that's not working because I was a negative Nelly. I didn't believe any of it. And it was amazing. The day the switch flipped and I started doing things differently, it's like, well, I could have learned this sooner, but I'm glad I learned it now.
Right. So too many men would rather be right than be happy. I was one of them.
Yeah. I
You
was
have
always right.
Yeah, you have to be wrong about these things you believe for them to work,
Yeah.
or you to try them
Yes.
and give them the work. The journaling was something therapists had recommended to me for at least a dozen years before I finally tried. And my first goal
Hmm.
was 3 things I'm grateful for. And when 3
Yes.
became easy enough, I was 5 and then 10. And within a month, I'm like, "Oh, I've done more than 10. Uh-oh, I've done it
Yeah.
wrong." Now there's just 10 minimum. That's why I start and end most days by doing gratitude journaling, written out, long form. And journaling on itself, I had a really negative outlook on it. I thought this is like little girls, Dear Diary, Timmy likes me
Right.
kind of nonsense. I'm like, I'm not doing this. But the worst place for my thoughts were in my head. So
Yes.
even
I was
the
going there next.
journal, yeah, even the journal, everything I hate, that sucks about me, getting that out, got it out of just chasing my own tail. So rumination can end with journaling because then you can
Yes.
witness it more like, wow, this is nonsense. This is really what I say to myself, right? But until you put it somewhere else, you think it's you.
Take it off your shoulders, put it on paper. You will sleep better at night.
Yep.
Now, there are men listening right now who, like you and I both, who are sensitive, emotional, intuitive, but they hide it, right? They think that's not what being a man means. What do you want them to know?
Being a man means everything that you are and can do. Being a man, so there's no, if you've ever talked about the man box. If you
I have
live
not.
in this shrinking definition of masculinity that keeps you stuck, then it's wrong. Push
Hmm.
the walls. Again,
Yeah.
be so comfortable, because be so joyous in you that what you do, what you think, that's what a man does. Because it only matters what you think is, right? Your definition of masculinity is the one that matters. But anytime you come against a societal restriction, a family rule, just in your old pattern, like that's you hitting the boundaries of the man box. And we are all more than anything that can be boxed or defined, right?
Right.
We're eternal and expansive. We're not just this meat suit. We're not just brain chemistry. When we're not a happenstance. We're not a mistake.
Right.
Just think of like out of the millions of sperm, one had to get somewhere to make the genes that become you. Like it's just
Right.
amazing. It's lightning on
Great
a
odds. Yes.
yeah. So celebrate that and realize that that's your lineage. That's your birthright. Like so many wanted to be you. You've got to like
Yes.
grab that and have fun with it and have joy with it.
I agree. And that's a great perspective on it. You said you stopped letting fear run your life and started letting it fuel your evolution. What does that mean to you, and how did you make that shift?
With enough repetition. So when I finally started like going to events, and the first kind of personal growth thing I went to was this week-long meditation retreat, and I
Hmm.
was scared. And even there,
Sure.
I would make myself sit up front. I'm like, oh, I just want to leave. I got to get out of here. This is horrible. And the first time I did that, I was called on stage 30 seconds after they going, I'm just going to leave. No one knows me yet. I can just go sit in my room and then fly home. And they're like, Andy, come up on
Yeah.
stage. Like, oh God, no way. Um, so I've come to learn that fear is not a warning sign for me. Fear is a go sign. Fear is like, yeah, this is what you fear most. That's what you got to step into and do next. Right. And
Makes
the
sense.
fear of that, like mental fear, is so entirely different from that physical fear like I had when I stood in that building. That was that was not a mental fear. That was like a body like freezing, saying, "You're not doing this. This is not what you're meant to do." Whereas the fear of being seen, the fear of taking some new action, going to some event, growing and changing, that sort of thing is, when you get the stop signal, see it as a green light. Like go
Yeah.
into that fear. And
Lean in.
the whole spectrum of, fear and love. Love is expansive. So now I try to choose the things out of love, meaning I'm going to what I want to do. I'm not doing something because I'm afraid of the other end of it or something like that. Don't not do things because you fear it. Do things because you love the experience or the outcome, the promise, what might be next.
But most of the time when we do something that we fear on the other side of it, we feel exhilarated. We feel excited. We're like, I was not as, and almost always, well, that wasn't as bad as I thought.
Yeah. Yeah. We'd have no technology, no cities. If nobody did things that they feared, the country would
Right.
be the 13 colonies and nothing else.
There would be no AI, no, advanced computers and quantum computing. And right, we would be way back in the Stone Age. Now, what's your advice to someone that's stuck in the darkness right now, right? In that moment of say 3, 2, 1 darkness, or in a situation like you were, what would you tell them now? What do they need to hear?
Yeah. Tell someone, find someone that you can share that with. And if you don't have friend, family, clergy, call a suicide support line. I've called them.
Hmm.
I've used those.
Okay.
I found that when I thought I had nothing, sometimes just again giving it voice, saying it out loud, relieved the pressure. And especially when
Yes.
I was in high school, I thought if any of my friends knew how dark I was, they would run. So find someone that you can say, I feel this badly. And that person, if you're the person that ever has someone come to you like that, just all you need to do is, I hear you. I hear you. Offer up. Can I hug you? Do you need me to stay with you to make sure you're safe?
Hmm.
I don't know how widespread this is, but when I was depressed, I was like bizarrely honest. So if someone said,
Hmm.
like, "Can you promise me that you're safe for the next hour, for the next night? Can I go?" I'm like, really think like, yeah, I can promise you because I don't want to scar someone else by lying to them and then ending up
Sure.
dying, and then that's a level of guilt and horror that no one should have to experience. And me cheating myself didn't mean I hated others. So it gave me this weird level of honesty. But yeah, you can share how low you're feeling with someone that just sit there and hear it, receive it. They don't have to fix it.
Yeah.
Don't have to have an answer.
Right.
That lets some of the pressure be released in a non-destructive way.
Yeah. Makes a whole lot of sense. And
Yeah.
it does make a big difference.
And then I would go on, like, and if strong enough, like journal. You know, uh, don't
Yes.
call it a gratitude journal yet. Call it a why my life sucks. Like, get it all out of you. I call it vent
Right.
book.
Get it out.
Vent it all out, and then when I do pages like that, I will safely go somewhere, set it on fire, rip it up and shred it, flush it down the toilet. Make your own ritual. Make your own process to take that energy and do
Yeah.
something else with it, as opposed to let it
Release it.
just
Yeah.
ruminate. Yeah.
I like that. I hadn't thought about that. That's good. I think you said something. You said something on your website. Life is beautiful, bright, and joyous, and the pie is big enough for everyone to have a slice. I kind of like that. It's not something I thought about. Talk about that. I mean, maybe a lot of people don't believe it.
Yeah, we're kind of taught that the world is competitive. There's only so much to go around. Again, science says the universe itself is expanding, and it's expanding at a faster and faster rate.
Hmm.
So there is plenty, right? There's plenty of good. There's plenty of joy.
Yes.
Like I don't need to deprive you of joy for me to have a good day. It's just
Right.
not how it works, right? So that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Um, but if
Yeah.
like don't if you see someone doing well, you see someone drive a fancy car, like, oh, that bastard, oh, what a like don't hate on things because you aspire to them, because your soul won't let you become something that you think negatively about. So if you want to be the guy with a Lamborghini, bless that guy with a Lamborghini. Like let
Yeah.
them in, oh, that's possible in this world. Wow. Right? But if you go around cursing everything and blaming everybody and not taking responsibility, I used to shun responsibility because I thought it meant
Hmm.
blame.
Yep. Yep.
So it's not about
I know
blame. It
that.
just means if I'm not responsible, I can't guide the rest of today. I can't guide the rest of my life. And when I just let myself be at the mercy of things, the mercy was my most habitual negative patterns. Why it takes effort when you mentioned before, when you're depressed, like I don't want to do anything. It takes
Hmm.
more conscious effort to break that momentum of apathy because we've given that the fuel. So, we can be Prometheus, pushing up that boulder, trying each day, or sometimes it's easier, sorry, let the boulder go and crash down.
Yeah. Let
But
it
it's
go.
worth it to get the push. Like on the top of the hill, over that hill, life is better. Crying, like it's called a good cry. You ever hear that term?
Hmm. I
Yeah.
have.
Yeah. 'Cause I've never heard anyone say, I had a really bad cry. I'm like, what? No, you feel
Yeah.
better after the cry. That's why it's a
Right.
good cry.
Yeah. When I was at bare bottom, the first time I was sobbing uncontrollably, I felt better, and it bought the wrong way to word it. It bought me some time. Like you said earlier, it lightens me up, and that made a difference. And it can at least help get you through, and it does make things a little bit lighter.
Yeah. Again, a common phrase in AA, one day at a time. When I
Yes.
was at my worst, when I just was really sure I was better off dead, I sometimes had to live a minute at a time. All right, just get
Hmm.
through this. And if I get through this, all right, well, I've got through 5 minutes. That's going to mean something. I'm going to decide that means something. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last question is: you're not the person who counted down to darkness anymore. You're the person who helps others find the light. What's possible for you now that wasn't possible before that age 20 moment?
Lord, everything. Again, I was afraid to be seen. I was afraid to speak. I was afraid to be noticed. So astrologically, I'm a Cancer. So I still can retreat and need to get in my show, but I enjoy being out. I love to teach. I like to do things in person. I love to do healings.
Hmm.
Everything I do with clients is something that I learned to save my life. So everything I share and talk about is something that can benefit your life. Like
Right.
I've had experiences that did not bring me benefit. I don't share those,
Sure.
right? But every avenue has not been met with success and achievement. But it's, even to go down the wrong way street helps us learn because, that street's not good for me. I don't need to do that again. Right. So
Absolutely.
we can never be off our path. Our path can have lots of twists and turns, but we can't be off our path.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. And where can folks find you, learn more about your energy healing and what you do?
Cool. So yeah, everything me can be found online at theandygrant.com. You'll find links to all the socials there and the Real Men Feel podcast. And I run a men's community called Authentic AF. We
Hmm.
have, it's free to join and just encouraged to open up, share. It's a safe space, tell it like it is, and support other guys that are being open and honest with what they're going through.
Excellent. Nice. Yes, I highly recommend checking it out, and the podcast as well, which I know it's on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple as well through your is through.
It's on every podcast platform known to man and women.
Okay, excellent. Well, Andy, thank you very much for joining today. I greatly appreciate having you on the show. What you said today and what you've experienced is changing lives, and that's what matters.
I have no doubt about that, Mike, and I thank you. And I want you to know that your work is the same.
Thank you.
I
Thank
look
you.
forward to celebrating your episode number 400.
I'm excited, and I am I'm intrigued by our conversation because there were so many similarities to some of your experiences and mine. So it's interesting to hear it from someone else saying it, and I'm grateful for it. Uh, I would like to add for the folks that are listening in that if you're struggling right now, please make sure you call 988. Text 988, the suicide crisis hotline. It's really important. If it's an emergency, call 911. You belong in this world. And if this episode helped you, share it with someone else that maybe they need to hear it as well. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Go subscribe to Real Men Feel as well. Support another podcast that really makes an impact. I'm Mike Orlowski. This is Mojo, Motivation and Mental Health, where we're having conversations that change lives. Choose happiness, choose to be extraordinary, and get your mojo back. Thank you very much.